Hey crypto YouTubers, this is coinpicker.us and I am presenting from a former communist country in a cafe with some serious dental office music going on. Today we're going to talk about Bitcoin, obviously. Going to get into Litecoin, which is looking interesting. Talk about a pretty good call I made on Ethereum and how that impacts everything. And then most of all, most importantly, why this chart spells fantastic news for cryptocurrency in general. Stay tuned. We will roll into Bitcoin versus US on a daily basis. Just looks like it's hitting a trend area where there's no strong um, pull to the upward direction, no strong pull to the downward direction. This is something I've been talking about for a while. It's actually fantastic, fantastic news. We do have a tendency to the downside though, and that's primarily from the stochastic RSI. Everything else is indicating slightly down, but trending as much as anything. But if anything, I would expect it to break to the downside from here rather than the upside. That's the BTC. Now on LTC, we have a slight upward bias, nothing to write home about, but more trending than anything. But if anything, it's upward bias to trending. We still have buyers still in control somewhat, just marginally on CCI. Same thing on EFI, and the stochastic RSI is showing a nice potential upward trend. So it's a great point to hold or accumulate Litecoin. For BTC, it's more of a maybe go into Litecoin, maybe go into something else point, not, also an accumulation point if you want, but you might see some downside. Now on Ethereum, I had talked about in a video a while ago that it was poised for a nice rebound, and we've gotten that rebound here, and it's on good legs at this point. It hasn't even crossed over into full positive territory on CCI and EFI, and stochastic RSI shows us nowhere near overbought, so we're in really good shape for more upside. That bodes very well for a lot of the alternative coins, so we're seeing a bit of a shift back to the alternative versus BTC. That is fantastic news, because what that means is the market is once again showing an appetite for growth versus safety. BTC, somewhat of an extent, LTC are considered sort of safe bets. Now, an example of this is Digex DAO, which is gold-backed, or it's actually not gold-backed. It's part of a system where there is a gold-backed token. I don't think most people really understand what they're buying when they buy Digex DAO. But I mean, let's look at the performance of Digex DAO before I get into that chart. I'll show you right here. I mean, let's look at the performance, and it's just so far out of line with what financial reality would confer upon anybody. So it's up at nearly 420, up at 17 or 18%. It's near its highs. In fact, it's surpassed its highs. That's great. That's great. Except if you know what you're buying. If you know what you're buying, you realize you're way, way better off buying real gold by a wide margin. You will not ever in your lifetime, probably 5 generations lifetime, see a payback on that, unless they just keep getting more people buying in, which is possible. That's my opinion on it. I'm open to somebody changing my opinion, but I'm not a big proponent of Digex DAO, although I support what they're doing. I absolutely do. It's just that the financial case, unless I misunderstood some fee structure, is just non-existent. It's like 90,000 years to get a payback, something like that. I actually did a video on it somewhere. We can talk about it. But here's this chart that I wanted to talk about that I think is absolutely critical. It's kind of a hard chart to find, come to think of it, thanks to Crush the Street on it. What you're looking at is the US dollar index, which is, you can think of it as the price of the dollar compared to other really lousy currencies. Primarily the euro, which is just junk, Chinese yuan, which is also junk, Japanese yen, which is also junk, and a bunch of other currencies. They're all junk. US dollar's junk. I mean, that's just the fact of the matter. But this is a relative valuation of it. And what you're seeing is, this is the blue dollar index chart. So what's the dollar valued at? Well, as the dollar value drops down, and right now today it's just shy of 90 on the index. We've been as high as well, actually, that is not Yeah, I guess if no, that's not really valid actually. That DXY price is kind of weird. I'm not sure where they're. Oh, over here it's valid. Yeah. Okay, on the Bitcoin price that's valid. All right, got it. Yeah, we're in the 90 range, so this is correct. We've been much higher than this. We've been at 120 in the Bill Clinton days. Not that Bill Clinton had anything to do with it, but that's the fact. And recently we've been up around 104, 105. Now we're down around 90, so it's obviously dropping. Well, look what Bitcoin has been doing. And you can see that the trends are relatively closely aligned. Yes, there are some points where the DXY is rising, with Bitcoin also rising, but the tendency is that as the dollar index drops, Bitcoin tends to rise. That's at least, excuse me, what this chart is showing. I don't know if that will hold 100% at all, because I think if we get to a really, really serious point where the dollar would drop like a rock, people may just run to gold or silver or something else. I'm not sure. But for the moment, it appears that there is somewhat of a run towards cryptocurrencies. And the reason this is so important is because the dollar is doomed to drop a lot more. And that means that the cryptocurrency market could catch a serious, serious bid to the upside in the near future. In fact, the dollar index has a date with probably the 80 range. So that's another, call it 10 or 12% down. It wouldn't be linear to the upside, it would be explosive to the upside. That's a big drop for a currency. 10 or 12% down is a very big drop. And that would, it would show outsized impact on the cryptocurrency market. Instead of getting, a 10% pop, which would take us up to 500 billion, we could see a 40 or 50% pop, which would take us, knocking on the level of the 700 billion and higher. I'm not saying we'd necessarily crest the 830 billion. That was a real speculative overshoot, but we might get up to that range. So all really good news. I think we have, not horrible news at all in BTC. It just looks like it's kind of got a trending to down is what it's showing, trending to down with a downside preponderance. So it's a time where you could take some profits if you bought in at a lower phase here, somewhere in that range. Now on a weekly basis, which I haven't done, I guess, on a weekly basis, it's more the same actually. Although that's not true. Come to think of it, on the weekly basis, we definitely have an upside shoot coming, and I've talked about that. I said I was looking for 14 or 15. I'm still looking for it. We have an upside shoot coming. It's coiled. It's absolutely coiled for it. We might have to sit through a little trend for a while longer, but it's definitely coiled for it. Let's look what LTC appears to be on a weekly basis. Weekly basis, it's got upside move as well. I think on a weekly basis, we're already in the move, and I'm thinking 300 is quite reasonable within a couple of weeks, potentially even earlier. Now, Ethereum may not be quite as sanguine. Yeah, that's what I thought. It's not. On a weekly basis, it doesn't. It's got more of a downward trend than anything because it was overbought. So on a weekly basis, it's downward. On a near-term basis, it's upward. So kind of the reverse of LTC and BTC. But all in all, the market has taken some major hits and is still rolling along relatively nicely. And there's a lot of good activity. Digix is going higher. LTC had a nice pop. It didn't crash when the LTC or the Litecoin cash came about. That crashed, but if for those of you who did participate in it, you made a pretty good buck off of your Litecoin already. So this is coinpicker.us from a former communist country, completing my update for today, and I will have another one for you tomorrow. Thanks.